I will call to order the Board of Trustees of Batavia Public Library regular meeting for Tuesday, 20th of March, 2018. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Hey, Joanne, will you call the roll, please?
Blodgett, here. Kulata.
Oh, hi, here.
I'm here. Dietrich.
Here.
Garrett. Here. Henders.
Here.
McKenzie. Smith. Here.
All right, thank you. Do we have any comments from the audience? All right. We'll move to approval of the consent agenda. The consent agenda includes the minutes from the regular meeting of Tuesday, 20th February, expenditures, an ordinance amending a compensation plan for library page that came out of the Standing Committee on Services, and designated short-term parking spaces, which came out of the Committee on Facilities. Would anybody like to move any of those items off of the consent agenda? All right, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, please. Thank you. And a second. Thank you, Rich. A roll call vote for this. Thanks for adding that.
Blodgett. Aye. Kulata.
Aye.
Dietrich.
Aye.
Garrett.
Aye.
Henders.
Aye.
Smith. Aye.
Thank you. It helps me out to keep track of what's voice and what's roll call. Next is approval of the agenda. I need a motion for that, please. Thank you, Rich.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Apparently you gotta be faster.
The next item is board education. We have a discussion item here, review of chapter 8 on public services, reference, and readers advisory services.
Well, we do this about once a year based on what the requirements are for the annual per capita grant, which many libraries have received, but we have not received ours yet. There is hope now from last year. This year, we've been asked to review Chapter 8 Public Services, Reference, and Readers Advisory Services. And I'm not quite sure why they've got the applicable core standards, but then for the individual standards, they've provided a set for reference and a set for Readers Advisory, of which there is significant redundancy, so I'm not sure why they did that rather than just the previous edition of the book. They were combined, so I don't know. It's pretty self-explanatory. I've gone through and tried to highlight things that we are doing or comply with and things that we might not, and the reason why. And since a lot of this relates to Stacy's department, she was unavailable last week for a very good reason, and so there may be things that I haven't got completely accurate, and if there's anything that you find that it's not completely accurate, Stacy, please let me know.
There's one item that I wanted to comment on. It was item 19 on page 4, about evaluating references for activities handling with staff readiness and fee trainings. And we have a reference satisfaction survey that's available for people to pick up at the reference desk that we compile at least quarterly and report those results. Periodically, I'll include some
It does address
comments.
these particular topics.
It does.
I knew you did surveys. I wasn't sure if you did that. So.
Right. It talks about being greeted and helped promptly, being treated with courtesy and consideration. Were you satisfied with the answer you received? Did you get enough help and explanation? And overall, how satisfied were you with the transaction? And it's specific to at the reference desk today. So it gives an opportunity for people to capture, and comment on the experience that they had that day. And often we'll get, thanks to Astrid, who gave me,
enormously helpful overview of how to use my smartphone and worked with me for half an hour. So occasionally I'll include those comments in my board report. Maybe once or twice a year I'll throw a couple of those in there. Our overall satisfaction rate is in the 95% range, 95% of people saying that they're either a 4 or a 5, I very much agree, or which would be the 5 or the 4. So we're feeling like we're doing what we should be doing back there. And if someone comments that we greeted and helped promptly, they might have us in the middle and say, it was really busy and you got to me, and we try to make eye contact as soon as we can and say, I'll be right there. So we try to at least acknowledge promptly.
We can change that to okay then.
Yeah, I would
think
say
so.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Because we've had this in place for a number of years, and we take the feedback very seriously.
Yeah, I knew you did surveying back there, but I didn't realize that this is one of the.
Yeah, this is just kind of one of our just ongoing things. It's available in a little tray right in the front of the desk so people can pick them up. And then we've got a little mailbox that's a locked thing that sits off to the side where they can drop it in. And about every quarter, it gets filled up, and I go in with a special key and I unlock it, and we compile those results.
Nice. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had one question on the last page,
Mhm.
for number 6 and 7.
Mhm.
The Reader's Advisory Services that should attempt to stay current, and the answer to to those two is so different from the answers to the other ones. It wasn't okay, it was professional development and community involvement encouraged and supported by the library.
Well, and the reason for that is because rather than a statement of, the library does this, or the library provides that, or staff has access to this, it says should. So I wasn't quite sure how
Right.
to respond to a should statement.
Right.
It's,
Should attempt, yeah.
so it's
you
like,
interpret that.
the logical answer to you should do this is I agree, or something like that. So I thought it was better to say that we encourage and support it.
And I have some numbers because I looked up the past 12 months, kind of on
Okay.
a rolling basis. In terms of number 6, participating in organizations and so forth, all of the adult services staff members are members of the Adult Reading Roundtable.
Oh, okay.
So they receive regular mailings and the opportunity to attend workshops, genre studies, book discussion, book club studies, things of that nature. And for number 7, of the 6 of the 7 librarians and adult services in the last year have attended a session, a continuing education session, specifically focused on Reader's Advisory, either a webinar or an in-person session. So we're
We-
definitely doing those things.
Both of
Even though
those
it's-
actually relate to number 7, I think.
Mhm.
Because 6 is community
Community
clubs.
events,
Yeah.
got it. Mhm.
But and this is actually just for us. It doesn't get turned in anywhere.
Oh,
I
gotcha.
don't-
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking.
I was
in terms
thinking
of-
that should be an okay then.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that we encourage it, and I know that staff do belong to certain organizations and things. I don't think we've ever really polled employees about which, I belong to Rotary, do you belong to Kiwanis, do you belong to,
And they come to,
several of our employees belong to book clubs, which, in their own communities, whether it's Batavia or other things, so. Some belong to sewing and knitting and crocheting groups. I mean, there's all kinds of community things, but.
I thought
You
it was
just
part of
answered-
the application process that you had to turn in.
We just say.
So I think if
Yeah.
it's internal, as long as, if
Yeah.
it's.
that was gonna be another question, is what is the consequence of not being
Exactly.
okay?
Exactly.
I'm not sure how all libraries do this. I'm sure this is much more than most libraries look at, based on conversations with the directors. But I've always viewed these standards review as an opportunity on the staff level for us to do a self-appraisal and see how we're doing. And then I think it's great to share the results of that with the trustees, because there are things in here that sometimes it's like, what are you talking about? Kind of a thing. And I think it's worthwhile for us to have the conversation. So on the actual application form, it will say, yes, reviewed on March 20th, 2018
So
kind
you
of
just have to
thing.
make a statement.
And then they might actually, have, sometimes they spring a question on the application that they didn't tell us about when they told us to do the review, and we'll respond based on, the research we did. But yeah, this really is like a self-evaluation for the library.
Yeah.
And thank you, Stacy, for looking up that. That's helpful.
Okay. Is there anything else on that item, George?
No, it truly is for review and discussion, and
Okay.
which we've had a good one, I think.
Yeah. All right, does anybody else have any other comments on it? Okay, we will move to item 8, the financial reports.
Joe is out of town this week, and he did not inform me that there was anything special that I should report
Okay.
about the finances. Reports are in the packet, and everything is, proceeding according to plan at this point.
On budget and our actuals are matching, okay. Does anybody have any questions about the financials? Okay, President's report, I don't really have anything to report this month. Good news, comments from the board. Does anybody have anything they would like to talk about, report on? Okay,
I attended the Stories and Songs of African Peoples.
Oh,
which
yeah.
was excellent. Very engaging. The audience seemed to really enjoy it. I know my children were the youngest people there, and they really enjoyed it.
That same author spoke at my kid's elementary school, my son's elementary school.
She was great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, good work. Thank you.
I'll tell Lee, thanks.
Excellent. Does anybody have anything else? All right, correspondence and communications, there's a couple things in here. George, in the King County Chronicle, was commenting on the painting there at the Batavia Depot Museum on the Fox River ice skating, which is a classic for those of us who live in Batavia. Community-based placement program for Batavia High School students and local businesses. I think I knew we were doing this, but that's, we place students from the school
Yes,
at different.
in fact, Carrie is our liaison for that program. Do you want to say anything about this?
I was trying to count. I think we've had about 6 students over the past few years. They usually come and help us with draw magazines when we're getting rid of the old year, getting ready for the new magazines that are coming in. And we've had great success with them. It's been fun. They're just always very enthusiastic, and they really do help us. And I know that is what Kimberly talked about in the article, is that she wants them not only to get experience, but to be helpful to us too. And that has been my experience with every student we've had so far. So it's good. I enjoy it.
Excellent. All right. Thank you. And then an article from the King County Chronicle that mentions George for community safety in the wake of the Parkland shooting. It was a conversation then with the community.
And we met again last night, and the group's name, calling itself, is Empower Batavia. And I'm not exactly sure where this is going. I think ultimately the focus might be a combination of education about some resources that are available to the local community on a variety of topics related to safety. Broadly conceived, not simply related to school situations. And possibly, I actually, at the meeting that was reported on here, pitched the idea of our community engagement process, because one of the reasons why this meeting was called in the first place was the idea of holding some kind of a town hall meeting. And I said, so I explained what we were doing, and I said that I thought by having very structured questions for people to discuss related to the topic at hand, we found that it has provided some really useful information for us, as opposed to getting a group of however many people in a topic like this, it could be several hundred actually, get together and without structure could become difficult really quickly.
Sure.
So anyway, I don't know if that's going to happen, but we're still talking about it, and I think it's, I'm happy for the library to be involved in this. And at the first meeting, Joanne Zillman and Michelle Martzel joined me, and so we want to be well represented in these kind of community conversations.
Sure. Okay. Great, thanks. And then you also have in here a map of the new Swan libraries, which will be a discussion point, I think, later here, right?
I just thought you'd be interested in seeing the scope of the.
Distribution.
Yeah, so a good portion, well, half of Kane County, maybe half of DuPage, a good portion of Cook, and some of Will, so especially the southeast
Southern Will, yeah.
corner of Will, so.
Yeah.
Southern Cook, too.
Yeah, the Swan started as part of the, I don't even remember the exact suburban library system it was called. North Suburban was north of Chicago and South Suburban was south of Chicago. DuPage was west of Chicago, and at one time there were 17 library systems in the state of Illinois.
Okay.
And so the bulk of the members show libraries to the south and to the west of Chicago originally, and the new 19 are largely DuPage and Kane County with a little touching upon Cook County, I think. So
Okay.
it makes for a very interesting map. In 97 libraries, you can see where some of the gaps are. Of course, one of the gaps is Fermilab in there, which is a big one. But it's amazing how many libraries are either standalone, or when you get more in the northern areas, are part of the old North Suburban Library System, which has a separate integrated library system they use. So
Okay.
someday maybe there'll be more merging, but this.
Well, it will be great to have the Town and Country, which is Elburn, and Caneville and Shrew Grove, and Messenger and North Aurora, all combined with Batavia, Geneva, and St. Charles as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of
because-
unified group.
Yeah.
So I know there's a number of patrons at those libraries that use ours, and so it'll make it easier for them.
Absolutely.
So that's great. Okay. Directors and librarians reports, item 12.
Okay. Really nothing, I've got nothing special to highlight in my written report. We've attached the statistical reports, of course, and the written reports from adult and youth services. So I'm happy to refer to Joanne and Stacy.
Just a couple things to highlight from my report. Winter Library Club has finished. We had about 143 families, which is on par to what we've been getting the last few years. And I think they enjoyed a variety of reading and library activities. We are in the midst of our tournament of picture books. We're down to our final 4. We've so far had 285 ballots submitted with over 1,456 votes, because we had different brackets on those first ballots. So, and it was very interesting today to see the number of children who came in and wanted to vote. Because it was voting day, and they wanted to get their little sticker that showed that they voted. So that was a lot of fun.
Nice.
We are down to our
Any
final
upsets?
4. I'm sorry.
Any big upsets?
Well, the final 4, I will tell you that the final 4 are Duck Rabbit, Bear Snores On, Click Clack Moo, and Don't Let the Pigeons Drive the Bus. Don't let the pigeons. So I'll send you.
Mo.
Yes,
Mo
so
Willems.
those are our final 4. So we'll see where they come out with that.
Kids all love Mo Willems.
A couple of things this month I wanted to just draw to your attention. March is kind of a time between our winter and our spring storytime sessions, but we still have a lot of programming that's going on in March. And one of the things was we had a Dr. Seuss Day, Read Across America, and it happened to be Friday. It celebrated on Dr. Seuss's birthday, on Theodore Geisel's birthday, which is March 2nd. Children were off of school that day, so we had a lot of older siblings in, and as well as our preschoolers who generally do our story times in for games, activities. Amy Hong and I did a duet reading of Green Eggs and Ham. We did craft, we had a photo, and one of the most popular things was the photo booth. So you can see some of the things that they dressed up as. That was a lot of fun.
And on March 9th, we did our annual middle school mystery night, and I'll send around that poster as well. We had 40 students, middle school students this year participating in that, and we had 6 high school students who volunteered to be kind of prefects. This year our theme was an all Harry Potter theme. So we had locations and suspects and weapons all from the Harry Potter books, and it was a lot of fun. It was great fun. And the high school students, we really enjoyed, I think, being they're kind of the team captains, and they take this group of students on and facilitate playing the clue game. And you'll see there in the back, they got laurel wreaths, the high schoolers, and kids who won the actual clue game on their individual team got little house cups for there, so they got little miniature gold cups. So it was very cute. It was a lot of fun that night. Spring break is coming up very quickly next week, so we have a whole week full of activities planned for students off of school. I do want to announce, though, that we had an author visit planned. Amy Chali, a special needs author who has written a book about her life and the service dog that she has, but she had to cancel her visit with us next Thursday. So as of yet, we haven't really rescheduled her, but she had a conflict that came up and very regretfully had to cancel her talk with us. So, but all of our other activities are coming along, and just look on the website for everything we have offering next week during spring break. Any questions? Okay, then I'll turn it over to Stacy.
Just a couple items I'd like to highlight in my report. The first is information that I think you're already aware of. Ryan Dowd, the Executive Director of Hesed House, will be here on Friday, April 6th from 9 to noon to give a presentation for library workers. There's information about how to register in my report in the packet. Trustees are welcome to attend. At this point, we've got about half the seats filled. So about 60 people have registered, many of them from this immediate geographic area, from the libraries nearby. So we're very pleased that he's going to be here. We have a copy of his book, The Librarian's Guide to Homelessness, which came out just within the last month. It's part of our professional collection that's available for staff to take a look at as well. So he's ready to present on these topics, which he's done for years, and he's just got this new book that's been published by the American Library Association on the same topic as well. So we're looking forward to his presentation. The Tournament of Books, it's our 3rd year in adult services doing the Tournament of Books, and it's the 2nd year that we have a homegrown version. The version that's available online through the Daily News had some titles that we were not familiar with, and we wanted to make it relevant and exciting and interesting for our patrons here. So we invited patrons over the last 2 years to contribute titles of new fiction books that they thought were some of the best books of the year. Staff also contributed some titles. We balanced it all out among genres, and this year we're getting considerably more interaction, which is really exciting to see. People are voting online, they're voting in person. If you want to see our current lineup, we've got a great big huge poster board back near the reference desk that shows the current brackets, and I can't tell you who's going to be in the final round because we have something called the zombie round, where if your favorite title has been knocked out of contention, daily you can add it in as your zombie vote, and it could come back and win in the end. This has been known to happen. So anyway, if your favorite has been knocked out of contention, there is still hope. Just fill out the daily ballot, put it in the zombie section, and it just might come back and topple the others. So we're excited that that's going on. It's fun to see the books that are rising to the top. There's some gnashing of teeth as people's favorites are getting knocked off, but it's all very fun. And it's inspiring a lot of conversation about books. So we're excited about that. Any questions on my report? Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Stacy.
There's one thing that I had right in front of me, of course I didn't see it. But,
Yeah.
This last Saturday was our prom dress giveaway. It's actually a Chip-In's prom dress giveaway, but we have become, as of last year, a collaborative partner on this project. And we don't have the final count yet. I'm still expecting that from Joanne Spitz. We also had the building evacuated on Saturday. I guess I should mention that if you didn't already know that. I happened to be out of town, but the staff dutifully called me to let me know that the building had been evacuated. And there was a suspicion of a natural gas leak, and it was a false alarm. But the appropriate response from NICOR, the fire department, and the police department caused quite a bit of hubbub at our corner for a while on Saturday morning. But thank goodness it was a false alarm.
Did that impact the prom dress giveaway?
Well, it didn't seem to phase it very much because when the giveaway was set up on Friday and a count was taken, there were over 900 dresses.
Wow.
Not all prom material, apparently, but over 900 dresses. They gave away, and this is just like the first, there's several different categories here, 210 dresses to girls from Batavia, Chicago, Stevenson, Oswego, Normal, Geneva, St. Charles, Shabana, Wheaton, Mooseheart, Aurora, Matea, Lamont, Mount Prospect, and more. It says, seeing the girls smile, dance, cry, and take photos of their dresses made some of us cry too. They left with dresses, shoes, jewelry, purses, and a chance to win raffle prizes from Lisa Mack and her donations of Takara jewelry and Lila Rose hair accessories. The project even made it onto WBBM radio and got some advertising, and it apparently brought some girls into the event. They gave away over 400 dresses to other groups, helping our community, as we're actually running out of room to store 900 dresses at this point. So over 140 outdated theater-worthy dresses were given to All Dressed Up, 14 to be used for madrigals. About 150 dresses went to my daughter's dress, a new group in Oswego that has a prom drive on April 7th. The group gave about 90 to Wayside Ministries in Aurora, where people can shop for free. The clothes closet will get about 30 short and long dresses. And then 2 special needs groups were invited to shop as well. A teacher from East Aurora came by and told us about their prom drive collection, so we invited her to come at the end to fill her car with, and she took well over 100 dresses. So there are many thank yous here, but the first thank you on Joanne Spitz's list was the Batavia Public Library administration and staff for all the help and support, storage space, collecting dresses, helping with the setup and cleanup, and Michelle Marcella is one of our key liaisons with this group, and Kathy Moker, kudos to her for her support and scheduling and even hauling stuff around. Circulation staff very graciously interacted with people bringing in dresses in the last week or so. There were a lot of dresses coming to the front door of the library. And then facilities for hauling dresses upstairs and hauling dresses downstairs and taking care of things. So it's a fun project, and it's really a way, I think, for the library to be deeply a part of the Batavia community. And so very proud
I
of
think
the
that's
project.
awesome.
That's great. And do you have a date for next year's yet?
There probably is, but if there is, I don't know it yet. But
Same kind of mid-March?
probably.
Okay.
The group discovered way too late in the year that no one had remembered to book the room. So Kathy worked some magic with the meeting room schedule, and we were able to find the space for this last weekend. And if they haven't, we probably should remind them, why don't you book a date? Because we need Friday and Saturday and Sunday
Sure.
set up and take down.
That's amazing, that's great.
We put up the wall, all except for the last couple panels, and I think the Van Norwick room is the most amazing dress shop you've ever seen. And on the Newton room is our dressing rooms. They set up like these temporary dressing rooms and have tables with all the, because people donate all kinds of things, so their shoes and jewelry and purses and things like that. So last year I popped in to see how it was going, and there's just so much energy, and I think the families and the moms and the daughters are just really getting a lot out of it. So that's great.
Yeah, excellent. All right. All right, anything else for item 12 there, directors and librarians reports? All right. Committee and official representative reports, community engagement, community as a whole.
Well, since the last meeting, we had another session and focused on the future, and it was quite exciting. It was Lenny Lim did a really nice presentation, challenged us to think about not just where libraries are going, but where the society is going and how libraries might be affected by that. And we had a rather elaborate activity afterwards, and it was so elaborate that the results are a little bit hard to compile on Unicom Arts part. I expect to get them this week, the executive summary. But we had slightly more participants the second time around than we did the first time around. And Joanne and Rich were there, and were you there? Yeah, Kate was there. Several staff were there. So if you guys have any observations you'd like to make about Joanne's on the facilitating team.
My reaction was pretty much the same as the first one, that the people who attended were very engaged, and they were very interested in filling out our rather elaborate exercise. But they did the table I was sitting at, I thought, did a really good job. And then when they reported back, I thought that the input that we were getting, it was valuable. I thought the feeling of the meeting, the second meeting, was better than the first. It had to do with we were in a smaller space, so it felt cozy and full, and So I thought that was very good. And Lynn's presentation was very good and very thought-provoking as far as the future. So now we're looking forward to the third one.
And I have something to say about that, but I want to make sure that Rich and Kate have a chance to speak if you want to say anything about this.
I thought our group, a small group, was talking a little bit about how libraries, especially reference sections of libraries, would relate to people and make people aware of the fact that they really are an independent source of information with no hidden agenda, unlike some of the websites you might see, that are being paid to put ads a little bit higher. A library is giving you an independent source of information, and trying to get you the best information. And so that's something that we felt was important for people to be aware of.
Yeah, I have similar reactions. I'd love to see more community members join us for the next one, because the more voices we get, the more difference of experience and background we get, the healthier we're going to be able to move forward. So yeah, more. Give us more.
More months.
Great. More months.
And the facilitating team met last week, and for the rehearsal of the third presentation, which is half capital asset plan, presented by Chris Cotter from Building Technology Consultants. And he did a nice job, and the beautiful thing about these is the critique from the committee really helps the speakers focus in better on what we think they should be focusing on. And the other half is with Joe McCain doing a nice overview of the library's revenue and expenditures and that look. And engendered quite a bit of positive comment and critique about how to tighten the focus to where we thought it should be. And haven't quite settled on what the activity should be yet. There's quite a bit of discussion going on. So we have a meeting scheduled for the first week in April, as we hope maybe to meet and pin that down prior to April 12th. The next session is April 12th at the Batavia High School. I'll say cafeteria, it's a room right off the cafeteria. So that's, I guess that's our report.
All right, thank you. Standing committees on facilities.
We met, and the majority of our discussion was regarding the parking lot and awarding of a contract to work on the parking lot. And that is item 15 on the agenda, so put off that discussion until then. The other item we did discuss was we have been approached by a community member to purchase another windmill. And so we had a pretty spirited discussion about that. And we kind of decided to kind of put that off, that we have a windmill. And that it's probably best, you know, to let that one go by. As nice as it would be to have a collection of windmills. So.
Okay, finance, we did not have a finance committee meeting. Rich.
Exactly. Just wanted to mention again and go over the fact that everybody received the memo that was distributed by George, and there's a copy of it in the handouts for the meeting tonight, the packet. Just to give a little bit of historical background, we started looking at it in relationship to the fact that 9 out of the last 15 years, there's been no award for the given out for the library leader, and we're wondering if there was something we should be doing differently. And one of the concerns we had was that, to a degree, the list of qualifications may kind of skew a little bit toward trustees and or former trustees. The last 6 elements, taking an active role in the growth and development of the library district, partners with the local organizations and so forth, may really put an undue emphasis on certain aspects and ignores the fact that there are people who have spent literally years working every week and every day of every week at times to help the library. And so we started looking at that and wanted to see whether we should do anything about changing and or paring down the individual requirements. But then we also got into discussions in terms of whether it would be better to retire this award, come up with a new award, just retire the award in general, whether we should review these elements of the award and see whether in fact it should be changed. And so the reason, and it was actually George's suggestion for sending out the memo, was to ask for comments, because it's a significant enough award that we'd like to get a feel for what the rest of the board has to say about it, and their each individual's thoughts. And when you have an opportunity, please respond to George. George will then pass on the emails to me, and we will discuss them at our next meeting. And as is normally the case, most items are then driven from the individual committee back up to the board, but we wanted to get a little bit more feel for how the board would look at this. So if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but otherwise, thank you.
All right, thanks. I guess the only question I have is what drives doing this? Is it a standing item that happens in the outreach committee? Is there like a November meeting you talk about this, or?
Well, in terms of what drives the nominations, it pretty much is either we use, just traditional marketing techniques to try to encourage people to do nominations, which when we've done that really hasn't resulted in any nominations. Or the committee has given it some thought and has recruited nominators to consider particular people, or others that are familiar with the award, whether trustees or friends, board members, people like that, will actually take it upon themselves to produce a nomination. So there really is not a single nomination, an award that's been given that wasn't driven by either someone connected with the library board or the Friends board.
Okay.
In some level, or on the staff, like I would say that maybe one or two of them were driven by suggestions on the staff level. And so I think it's one of those things where the community may see an announcement about this and just be a little perplexed, it's like, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's sort of problematic in a way. It's a nice recognition, but it's hard to
Okay. All right.
nominate.
Kind of follow up on what Rich said. One of the things that we discussed was that this award originated because of, what was that lady's name?
Lorraine Landis,
Who was,
longtime trustee.
had done lots and lots and lots for the library. So it was like this, like a lifetime achievement award almost, It was, and so we talked about, well, we could still have a lifetime achievement award and save this for those types of people, but maybe have another library recognition award for, people who, devote many hours, in service to the library. So, I mean, those are just some of the ideas that you might want to think about.
All right.
I think my initial thoughts are, does it water down the importance of the award if we just make sure we have one every year? These people on this list probably wasn't hard to nominate them, right? Like it was pretty obvious that they are this lifetime achievement. I don't know, I wasn't there, but the more you just say, we have to nominate a person each year, the less important that award becomes, because we are a small community. We don't have a ton of lifetime achievers right, to go through in the population pool. And so if you have to have one every year, I mean, maybe it's okay to not have one every year, is the point of my just initial thoughts.
No, and I don't think you need to have one every year by any stretch of the imagination. But, right now, we really haven't had that many at all.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can find a happy medium between the two of them. Because, there are a number of people that have put in enough time and effort that I believe deserve recognition. And, but no, I wouldn't suggest that you would just, water it down by any means.
Part of it is to get those kinds of people to qualify based on these criteria, because they have to meet 3 of them. So maybe we just need to rearrange or redo the criteria.
Yeah, that's what we
that'd be
talked
fine.
about,
Sure.
redoing the criteria,
But
possibly.
in redoing the criteria, then maybe it isn't a lifetime achievement award anymore, it's more of a recognition kind of award.
Right.
And maybe it's more watered down too, if we're just
Mhm.
trying to make it easier. to
Or
get
would
this-
you
Well-
start the other way versus start with the people that you know of
Right.
and think of what criteria they have encompassed?
Sure.
And then, start it from the people that you know should be recognized? And I don't know.
And that's part of the thought process that went into it so far too, was saying, if we look at the people that we feel that we know personally who have been significant contributors, things like their involvement in the entire community. And that's why I say that, that some of this just, it really kind of is skewed away from a person who is just a very hard-working contributor.
Yeah, it's all
as opposed-
library
You know,
districts.
you know, the community involvement and all that other stuff. But yes, that was part of the process and made us start to think a little bit about the fact that, gosh, maybe we need to change this up a little bit and put a little less emphasis on
All right, so if anybody has any specific comments, I guess we'll send you an email.
Yeah,
Or
please.
send, I'm sorry, we'll send
Yeah.
to George, and then George will forward it to you.
Please do.
That way we have our open meeting acts
Yep.
requirements covered, so.
This
Okay.
is maybe a little off subject, but are there other service awards for recognition for staff that we have baked into the system? No?
We do have years of service recognition, but it's, those are more longevity awards. So.
Okay.
Okay. Let's make a note here. Okay. Great. Standing Committee on Services, that would be me. We discussed a couple things. The most important one will be coming up here later for the performance appraisal mechanism for the library director. Otherwise, I think it was pretty quiet.
And yeah, we had something on the consent agenda.
Yeah, that was, I was like, I know we talked about something else. I know, you're right. It was the compensation plan for the library pages, so. All right, Batavia Public Library Foundation, Diane?
What was that? Like, it was like a Skype interview or?
We were talking to, in a way, we were interviewing a consultant about possibly working with the foundation board in terms of evaluating fund approaches to fundraising. Although the foundation board hasn't concluded that discussion yet. So that was really the bulk of the meeting. They did ratify, the foundation board did ratify a vote for the Red Cross babysitting workshops for this summer.
Oh, great. Those, as I recall, are
They're very popular.
very popular and book fill up very quickly, so. Excellent. All right. Batavia Public Library Foundation. Oh, I'm sorry, just did that. Friends of the Batavia Public Library, Joanne.
Friends have not met since our last meeting
Okay.
because they had their special meeting earlier. But they did have a book sale on 10th of March, at which time they brought in $1,091.50.
Great.
Awesome.
Link. Is there anything to say on that, or is that all going to be?
Well, the dissolution resolution is coming up as item number 14, but Carrie Halter is here to provide an additional update on the road to Swan.
As soon as I get all my papers here. I just want to give you a little update. We're really getting into it at this point. There's going to be a period of time, April 28th to May 1st, that there's going to be some library service limitations for the patrons. At that time, they will be able to check out items, but there won't be any check-in. We're not going to have any scheduled due dates during that time. Similar to how we do holidays, we'll just kind of skip over those dates so nothing will be due. And we really encourage people not to bring their books back during that time because they're just going to get piled up probably in this room waiting for the downtime to be over. The self-checks will also be down during that time. The checkouts will only be able to be going through the checkout desk. There will also be that period of time where you will not be able to place holds. Again, just because of all the migration issues, you won't be able to access my account through the online catalog also. One piece of information that we're really trying to get at is about your PIN. PINs are required when you log in on the online catalog to place holds, to check your account, to maybe do renewals. You need to have your library card number and a PIN. If your PIN is an alphanumeric collection, I don't know what the word is, you will need to change it to all numeric. I have an alphanumeric PIN, I'm going to have to change mine. So just that's something to do between now and the migration time because you will not be able to use your PIN if it's alphanumeric. It needs to be all numbers. And that's a big change we're trying to get out to everyone so that they are able to access the system after the migration is over.
Wow.
hopefully May 1st. I handed out to you a sheet of paper here. This is going to be what people will see. It'll be a landing page. There's going to be the little swan symbol that's at the top, and there'll be some kind of banner under it that says migration information or something like that. If they click on that, this will be the page they will go to. And it has a lot of the information I've shared with you, the important dates, information about the migration. But one thing I'm kind of excited about, at the very bottom you'll see a little orange rectangle. This is a link to YouTube videos that Swan has developed that will show people how to access their accounts once they get to Swan. It will show them how to change their notifications, which is going to be an important change that a lot of people will need to do. How to get their email how to get their hold information, how to know if a book's going to be overdue, kind of thing. So it's just, everybody learns differently, and sometimes seeing, it's got the little arrow that points to click here, and then click here to change your information. We're going to be handing out these bookmarks that will go in people's books, and you'll notice on the back it shows what you can do and what you can't do during this downtime, limited library service time is on the back, and that will be going in people's books soon. So they'll have the information that they need. They will also, I think I mentioned this at the last update, there's going to be a Swan patron website that will have a copy of the map that you had in your packet. It will also have some of this same kind of information that patrons can access, but the YouTube videos, they'll be a lot quicker to get to through the link on our website. So we're doing all we can to get the information out and make it as smooth as possible for the patrons. So, is there anything I can answer? Any questions?
So I get a couple of emails from the library that list new books and recommendations from librarians and new, genres of books that I might be interested in, and those come on a regular basis. Will that be affected by any of this and by the preferences?
I don't believe so.
No, those come through Library Aware. Those come out of Adult Services.
Okay.
And if you're signed up for any children's, those come out of Youth Services.
Okay, so it's a different.
Yeah, the one thing that we were just discussing earlier today is that we want to make sure that we communicate to the vendor that powers some of the software to make sure that the catalog links that we're pulling from for our preview issues that we prepare well in advance, that all of that syncs up. So there might be a little bit of wonkiness in May.
Okay.
So we're anticipating that there might be a little bit of wrinkle
Sure.
there, but you won't have to change anything there.
Okay.
But we're working on trying to keep that transition smooth as well.
Excellent. Okay.
There's a lot of those links. I've just been in communication with some of the vendors that we use to purchase materials, getting our new links situated, and hopefully that we'll be able to order soon after the migration, that all of that will work fairly smoothly. So you just cross your fingers and hope for the best. So.
Okay.
Do you have any numbers about what this weekend would typically look like in terms of returns?
I'm not so good on the circulation
No,
kind of
no, that's
questions,
okay.
so I really.
I'm just wondering, it feels like you guys are really well prepared for this.
Well, we have a committee that we're trying to talk about the patron experience and what
Sure.
can we do to make it smoother for the patrons. They don't need to know all the behind-the-scenes stuff we're doing.
Right.
But I really don't know. They will get a lot of FaceTime at the checkout desk since they can't use,
Yeah.
the self-checks, and they can't do their own account information. But they're always very welcome to come use the desk or call on the phone, or the old-fashioned way of checking out your books and checking your account and doing your renewals.
And by not having materials due on those dates, and in fact, the actual blackout period for due dates extends at least a day, if not a couple days, past May 1st. So that will trigger some patrons to not visit because they don't have any books due. However, there may not be that big of a downturn in our visitor count just because we're busy to begin with.
And I think the latest information is, they told us not to expect to be up at 9 a.m. on May 1st. It will probably be later in the day. But who knows what we'll hear in a week or two. Every time, every week there's new information coming out, so.
So that's a Saturday through a Tuesday, the 28th
Yes.
through the 1st, okay.
Yes.
In just a few days.
Yeah.
Hopefully people will
Right.
be understanding.
Oh, I think
I think
so.
they
Most of
are.
our patrons are very understanding, and if they can still check out,
Right.
Right.
it'll just be they can't, things aren't checked in. Some people like to know that stuff.
People understand going to a new system.
Right, and-
Includes a few little burn-in time.
Take a shot.
And it looks like a better system.
A lot more, oh, yeah, many more.
Yeah, availability.
libraries, Yeah.
Well, the
I think
system
the eye
is,
on the prize is that we're going from a smaller collection
Right.
of 1.5 million items in 8 libraries, and for actually less annual cost to us, where we will now be accessing for our patrons nearly 10 million items amongst all these libraries. And the delivery time, in Illinois, you can pretty much get a book from Alton to Batavia in 2 days. So the delivery time in the Chicago area is very good. So the real prize is that the amount of resources available to our patrons will exceed their expectations, especially once they get used to the change in look of the catalog. I'll be honest, I don't know why any library is a standalone library nowadays. I've had this conversation with the director of Aurora. I said, you probably would be a net borrower. Your collection wouldn't be going out. You've got a big enough population, you'd be pulling things in because even your collection couldn't accommodate the demand.
I remember that one meeting I went to when we were first
Mhm.
talking Swan, and I think it was the Oak Park director was there, and he spoke to that. I mean, that's a big library,
Mhm.
but they borrow more than they lend in Swan.
That's very typical
Yeah.
in the larger libraries, and it's counterintuitive.
Right.
Yeah.
One would not think that. The bigger libraries think, well, our stuff is going to
Go
leave.
on.
And that's not the way it works. Because, your active readers and researchers and stuff.
Their user base is
That's right.
bigger and more demanding.
Yeah.
I imagine.
So, so the prize for us is such a tremendous increase in accessibility for our patrons, and it just is, sort of boggles the eye.
Thank you for all of your preparation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes,
That's a
right.
lot of work.
Close, final stretch, right?
Final stretch.
All right, thank you. Batavia Access Television, Rich?
Yeah, just very briefly, at the last meeting, just wanted to remind people that Channel 17 is basically for public events, community events. Channel 10 is really associated with governmental meetings, local governmental meetings. And on a personal basis, I started serving on their finance board, so.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
great, thank you.
life is good.
Excellent. Okay, item 14, the dissolution of Link, the Library Integrated Network Consortium.
Well, there is a report in your packet, and this resolution really probably came up a little faster than the Link Board thought it might. We started to discuss it, the actual language in January. However, as I mentioned, I believe in my report, there was a trigger for needing to do this sooner rather than later, and that is the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. The employees, past and present, of Link are Link was part of the IMRF. And so as part of the dissolution, you just don't dissolve, and IMRF just doesn't say, good to know you. There's a lot more to it than that. And there's a complex aspect to it, which is that of the Link member libraries, 4 district libraries, such as Batavia, and the boards are self-governing. We are a special unit of local government. So by approving a resolution like this, IMRF is perfectly happy with that kind of documentation. For the 4 libraries that are village libraries, municipal libraries, IMRF considers them to have a higher authority, which is the village board. In Aurora, that would be the city council, for example. The boards in Illinois are what I call quasi-autonomous, but they're still in cities and villages, there's still a higher board that approves levies and things like that. And so IMRF requires the village board to also approve a resolution for this. So in order to allow sufficient time to work through that process, the attorney for Link recommended that it's best for the libraries to proceed with the dissolution. But the actual date, the worst case scenario date in here is December 31st, I believe. Yes, section 2A1. We basically picked the furthest out date that was made any sense, and that was December 31st of this year. We will actually have the final audit probably sometime this summer, but that date will allow any possible contingency for something going weird. And Jenny knows more about the ins and outs of that kind of process than I do. We have an audit coming up, you know, for the end of the fiscal year, which is May 1st, and then we have to have a final audit to certify all the assets. So it's pretty straightforward, as you can see. It's a relatively short document, totally based on the bylaws that were established for Link, and the Link board recommends it, and it's been reviewed by the Link attorney, and so each of the Link member library boards are acting on this, and you're essentially giving me and the other directors the authority to vote on this at the next meeting.
So then the motion we need is to allow you to,
No, really all you have to do is approve the resolution.
okay.
Yeah. The act of doing that is sufficient.
So which is the resolution?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the one on the actual resolution is the buff-colored
Okay,
paper, and then there's a recommended language on the front page of my report.
Okay.
In B3.
okay. So I need a motion to approve a resolution of dissolution of the Library Integrated Network Consortium.
I so move.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Diane.
Sounds funny when you say it out loud.
Yes.
Resolution of dissolution.
After this long, resolution of dissolution. So we do need a roll call vote for this, please, Joanne.
Okay, Blodgett,
Aye.
Coletta,
Aye.
Deitchman,
Aye.
Garrett,
Aye.
Enders,
Aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, thank you. Next item is contract for parking lot rehab, or rehabilitation. We have a proposal in from Schroeder Asphalt Services. This is gonna be another roll call vote. Joanne or George, do you wanna bring us up to speed on this?
Well, we decided to put it on the agenda for several reasons. One was there's a significant amount of money that this contract is for. And then the second is that in our committee, we decided to go with the two-phase operation instead of the single-phase operation. Single phase is they'd come in and they would, you know, churn up the existing pavement or whatever term, it's not the right term, I know, but chew it up and then do it all in one fell swoop, which means that probably we would have to close the library because the parking would only be available on the street, whereas we thought if we did it in two phases, that, you know, there'd be a section of the upper parking lot done, leaving a section available for parking and patrons in the lower parking lot. And then to do that other section in the lower parking lot in the second phase. We talked about this will probably be a pretty fluid kind of situation as far as when it will actually occur. We have dates, but depending on whether, you know, we may have to, you know, postpone things. And the other thing we talked about is that there still is a possibility the library may have to close on several of the days. We're not sure, but we don't know about when they do grind up the parking lot, whether or not that would be throwing off stones and pieces of the pavement. You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Will
we
they do it
didn't
with-
know.
I guess I've never seen this done, but they typically don't close roads when they do this. this. They just
Okay.
slow traffic, so I think we'll probably be okay. But that's something that's
Okay.
definitely something to consider.
Yeah, but we just thought we'd be probably having to make some of those decisions
Sure.
as the process is going on. The other reason we wanted to bring it to the board is that we got 7 bids. We are going with the lowest bid. They came with good recommendation from BTC, who we paid to, do all of this kind of lead work for us. And it's quite a bit less than what was in year 1
Right.
of the capital asset plan, so that was good news.
Yeah, the budget was 250 something, and
265.
it came in at 156.
155.
Yeah.
Yeah, 140,
But-
144 for the single phase and 155 for
Right.
the
Okay.
double phase.
But we're allocating 170 for
Right.
that project to allow for an allowance.
Okay.
Budget adjustment.
And, but that also includes the construction phase services from BTC.
Right, that's the difference.
Mm,
right.
To watch, so that they can watch
Oh,
the
the
work.
15,000.
Right.
Yeah, so they'll watch the work.
Right.
Yeah, there were 215.
There's 215,000.
One is built into the 155.
Okay.
So that's like a worst-case scenario
Mhm.
number, depending on change orders. And then the extra 15 is oversight construction phase services from BTC.
But the 170 is just 115,000 over the.
The other 15 is
Correct,
built
the other
into
one's built into the bids,
Got it,
yeah.
sorry.
So
One of-
that includes a contingency.
One of
okay.
BTC's approaches is to determine what they believe to be an appropriate allowance number, and then, as part of the bidding process, require all the bidders to incorporate that number. And so out of the 155, if that's the level that is approved, 15 of that is in fact an allowance, which could range from 0 to 100% of it being used. So it just depends on conditions. Once they grind it up, we'll see what the below grade really looks like.
Yeah, sure.
We've done drilling and testing, but there's always a possibility of something unusual underneath it.
Sure.
And I did get a report, which we did not have at the committee level, but I do have a report from BTC.
On reference customers.
On references. There were 6 references included in the packet. And since it wasn't at the committee, I'll just mention quickly, 4 of the references responded back to the query. The 4 that responded back are very good comments, like nothing negative to say, well organized, very schedule oriented, which is always good to hear. One, City of Aurora worked with the company on 3 different projects. Each one went well. All 3 projects had tight schedules that finished on time or early. Village of Palatine, the person who I believe is the Public Works Director there, has worked with Schroeder on several projects over the last 10 years and will continue to use them whenever possible. And then City of North Chicago does good quality work. They've been on time and under budget for every project he has worked on with them. So those are pretty.
Mhm. That was one thing that was missing, that we didn't have the reference. They mentioned customer satisfaction, but, I mean, even going to their website, I couldn't find actual customers, so we did ask for that.
And some of these projects are like way, way bigger than
Than what we're
our
doing,
project.
sure.
We're talking
Right.
$1 million+ projects. So
Well, they're
it's-
IDOT approved, so,
Yeah.
I mean, they're even doing some of Illinois highways.
Excellent, okay. All right, so this would be a roll call vote. So I need a motion to accept the contract for the parking lot rehabilitation from
I
Schroeder
so
Asphalt
move.
Services. Thank you, Diane. Thank you.
There's one other thing I would like to mention. and that
Yes.
is,
Jenny.
in the recommended action, I incorporated in here one thing that we didn't actually discuss, but which we did for the exterior masonry project. And I apologize for that, but that was something that the board had come up with to facilitate a short turnaround time on change orders, basically authorizing the committee chair, which in this project would be Joanne, and the director, to act on behalf of the board between meetings if there were time-sensitive issues relating to any change orders. But we had a precedent for that, so before you voted, I want to let you know that it was.
Okay. All right, are we?
Roll call.
Okay, roll call. Blodgett? Aye. Paletta?
Aye.
Beechman?
Aye.
Garrett?
Aye.
Enders?
Aye.
Smith, aye.
All right, thank you. Item 16 is the performance appraisal for the library director. The standing committee on services met and discussed this. We wanted to change how we did it last year. I don't know if you all remember or recall. We had a online survey that we did, and it kind of grew from a number of previous iterations, and it just kept getting bigger and I think got more nebulous and not as well defined. And so we kind of brought it up and suggested that there was a way to focus the comments, the board's evaluation of George on things that we see and that are more critical to how we evaluate George than stuff that was maybe stuff we didn't see or couldn't evaluate on a day-to-day basis. So we wanted to make some changes to that, and as part of that, once we worked with Nancy on this, and Mike, who's not here this evening, was very instrumental in doing this, kind of worked through this and then use that mechanism too to work with the 360 evaluation, the evaluation that George direct reports will do for him, and we will see all those. The idea would be that we would do it again as a survey monkey or an online survey. Each of you would do that independently. I would get those. I would get the ones from the direct reports too. Those would come directly to me. I would kind of correlate them together, and we would go from that and use that as the evaluation of George. So, is anything else to add to that, Nancy? Do you want to? No. Did I say that well enough?
Yeah.
Okay. And Nancy worked with a number of different resources. She's worked for for-profits, not-for-profits, some bigs, some smalls, and then you worked with the Library Association.
Management Association attorneys.
Okay, and they have attorneys on staff that, with as part of our membership, they provide free services for this kind of thing. So she was able to work with them to kind of define some of these questions and try and get this all, I think, in better shape for next year, or for this year as we do our evaluation. And if we find we don't like it, we'll change it again. So it's all about trying to find the right tool so that we can give George the feedback he needs to do what we expect of him as a board, and then also to find out how the staff views things and make sure that that interaction is going well too. So did anybody have any questions on that? If there's something as you go through those questions, if they don't seem to make sense for you, we wanted to make sure that we had opportunities for everybody to give comments as they went through here if it was important. Some of these questions, we tried to make sure they're broken up so it's not one really big question with lots of little parts, but without making it way too long. So, and left an opportunity for everybody to leave a comment on each of the questions. If there's no comments, then no comments, And then from that, we'll just kind of tabulate it all together.
I just had one comment.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead, please.
I was on number 16. On the trustees, the golden one. And it kind of has to do with what you were saying, separating out, not having a question be too involved.
Too many parts, yeah.
Yeah, this one demonstrates a sense of ownership, pride, continuous improvement, and urgency about required tasks. That seems to be one item, and then represents the library publicly in a positive and professional manner seems to be something. I mean, I could answer.
Those are really different.
I can answer those differently.
Okay.
Well, I can separate those.
Okay. I mean, just.
Break them out.
Yeah, Nancy's done that for a couple
Yeah,
of
we've done
Okay.
that for a couple other ones.
Okay. And then on number 2, explains changes to the Board of Trustees appropriately does not involve board members as procedure or policy changes are necessary. I guess my question was that, how would I know if I wasn't involved?
You're right, and some of these,
That's
yeah.
my question.
I think we were trying to get, are we too involved in
Okay.
letting him kind of do the day-to-day without getting us involved in every single thing? Yes, we don't know what every single thing is, but the things he brings to us, is it?
Do they seem appropriate?
Yes.
Is
Right,
it
exactly.
overwhelming? Is it
Yeah.
underwhelming?
Like,
Does
Is
it-
it?
yeah,
Something
does-
that he
yeah.
should be able to do on his own without.
Okay.
stuff.
Or there may be things that we know that are going on that we're not being involved in. And you're right, there could be things happening that we know nothing about, but
And
I
you
think
may
anything
find out.
large, we would, yeah, I think
I
something.
just read these, it's, you know, I'm gonna answer these
Yeah.
someday.
No,
so I'm
that's
like-
great. So, okay.
Okay, that was it.
No other questions or comments on this?
It seems more accessible to me than the one I did last year.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
that's just because now I got a year under my belt.
Right.
But
No,
Right.
I think this-
they definitely seem easier to get a handle on.
Yeah, again, I think that some of the questions last year were questions that I just didn't see, like how does George interact with
Interact with
staff?
staff, that
And I
was a
don't
big
really
one.
see that unless somebody here has a comment. So some of those things I just don't see. So we thought we would try as trustees, focus more on the aspects that are more, that we see and deal with, and then let staff focus on the more the internal stuff that they deal with, so.
And the other thing we wanted to allow for is the 5-point system, so you can have that strongly agree or strongly disagree aspect of it, and you're not always just the middle of the road. But I think to Nancy, you brought this up, and I think specifically for the direct report format, we really want to encourage, if there is one of those strongly disagree or strongly agree answers, that's where the comments are really important, and that's why we wanted to have the comment box. And so when that gets rolled out, those kind of commentary, if you do have something that's outlining or you feel strongly about,
And
a
that'll
strong opinion should be
That'll
followed
be
up
part
with
of
a
the
comment.
instructions on both
Mhm.
the one that you get as well as the ones that go to his direct reports.
So, okay. Are there any other comments on this? We thought that because we have in the past worked the appraisal process through the board, that we would want a voice vote to make the changes to the appraisal. So that's why we brought it to the board instead of just dealing with it in the committee. So I guess I need a motion to approve the performance appraisal methodology for, or I guess the documents.
The motion is to approve the two different instruments.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the appraisal instruments for the library director. Thank you, Diane.
Second.
Thank you, Jenny. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
And one thing,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
because it's not a part of the vote, is there is on the second page, issue 3. So we just voted on the 2 reports.
Right.
The Board of Trustees review and the direct report format. We did at the committee level talk also about an employee engagement satisfaction instrument. We didn't get to that. I think Mike was gonna work with Nancy on that, and that's gonna be coming more for next year. But because these kind of conversations, especially on the direct report format, sparked, well, how do we know how satisfied the employees are here and how motivated they are to stay and motivated to work really well for the library? And so Mike brought up a really great idea about the satisfaction survey to do at least once.
I just got an email from Mike McKenzie today with a list of questions and topics to add
Okay.
and to work with George, and we'll bring it back to the services committee.
Yeah, so that'll be later, so that's not,
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with these two.
And
I
that'll-
don't think it needs to.
Yeah, and I think that'll help judge how well the managers are doing towards the staff. So I think it's important that everybody gets some
Every
feedback.
level.
Yeah, so, okay.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that I included issue 3 and issue 4 for informational purposes. And I think I'm probably guilty of providing too much information sometimes, but I wanted to make sure that we had a documentation of some of the discussion that was taking place in the field. 4 is the process. Both the process and the core of the form, the previous form, I looked it up, were actually approved in 2006.
Okay.
So the board did act on that 12 years ago. But it summarizes the general points of the process that are reviewed each year by the Standing Committee on Services. I thought that was worth sharing as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Item 17 is future agenda items. We have a report here. Anything to note?
Not really. Well, group medical insurance is on the horizon, so We've gotten early indications that there have been several larger claims over the course of the past year amongst the members of the group, the medical insurance group. So there is predicted a healthy increase in the cost for next year. So
Okay.
will be. I haven't actually looked at the numbers or seen the numbers myself yet, but I know that they're available. And
Okay.
we'll be looking at that and bringing something to the services committee or the finance committee.
That's finance.
Yeah, it's
Medical is
the finance.
yeah.
In
In April?
probably next month.
Okay.
Probably in April.
In a couple of weeks, okay.
Our renewal date is June 1st.
Okay. I will not be at the next board meeting, I believe. I will be out of town.
Okay.
I mean, you'll be in charge.
Ooh.
Any other future agenda items to draw our attention to?
No, that's the big, well, technology plan is coming.
Okay,
As
that was
well.
an interesting, okay,
Yeah, that's,
yeah.
will you be at the committee meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's a good one.
because we've involved Webbit this time, and Ross has done some work restructuring it to make it maybe hopefully easier to read and
Okay.
definitely easier to update from year to year. But I know that Webbit has been providing some input into some of the elements of it, so we'll maybe see some, a different look this year.
Okay.
Actually, you're not on that committee anymore.
I'm not on the facility, yep.
Yeah, you're not on that one, so anyway.
Okay. All right, next meetings or events, as mentioned, we've got our board meetings and committee meetings next month. I have nothing else. Motion to adjourn. Jenny, do I have a second? Thank you, Joanne. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Great. Thank you very much. We are adjourned.
Maybe you'll learn on the job in a year, it'll be, this guy's.